Las alarmas resonaban por toda la estación espacial mientras Commander Jake Martínez corría hacia la sala de comunicaciones. Los sensores habían detectado algo imposible: una nave de la Alien Queen aproximándose al sistema solar después de 3 años de silencio total desde la última batalla. ¿Cuál es el estado del contacto?, gritó Jake al entrar en la sala donde Lieutenant Amy Foster trabajaba frenéticamente en los controles. Es una nave pequeña, señor Cobb. Parece dañada y está enviando códigos de rendición, respondió Amy con voz temblorosa. Pero los códigos son antiguos, de antes de la guerra. Jake frunció el ceño. Durante la guerra contra la Alien Queen y sus fuerzas nunca habían capturado a ningún enemigo vivo. Los alienígenas preferían autodestruirse antes que ser capturados. Esta situación era completamente nueva. Permiso para abordar concedido, pero con máximas precauciones de seguridad, ordenó Jake. Quiero a todo el equipo de marines listos. 1 hora después, la pequeña nave alienígena fue remolcada al hangar principal. El aire se sentía pesado con tensión mientras los marines, liderados por Sergeant Rick Coleman, rodeaban la nave con armas listas. La escotilla de la nave se abrió lentamente con un siseo. De ella emergió una figura que hizo que todos contuvieran la respiración. Era un alienígena de la especie de la Alien Queen, pero algo estaba terriblemente mal con él. Su exoesqueleto morado brillante estaba agrietado y cicatrizado. Uno de sus 4 brazos colgaba inútilmente a su costado. Sus grandes ojos compuestos, normalmente brillantes como joyas, estaban opacos y llenos de lo que los humanos reconocían como terror puro. «No disparen», murmuró el alienígena en inglés entrecortado. Vengo en paz. Tengo información». Jake se acercó cautelosamente. En todos sus años como comandante, nunca había escuchado a uno de estos seres hablar en idioma humano, mucho menos pedir paz. «¿Cuál es tu nombre?», preguntó Jake. «Soy SIG-774, anteriormente comandante de la 7ª Flota de la Reina. Pero ahora soy solo un sobreviviente», respondió la criatura con voz quebrada. ¿Sobreviviente de qué? Los ojos del alienígena se llenaron de un líquido transparente que parecía ser su versión de lágrimas. Fue un infierno que nuestra especie nunca imaginó posible. Jake intercambió miradas con Amy. «Explícate». La reina creía que los humanos eran una especie primitiva, fácil de conquistar. Enviamos nuestras mejores flotas, nuestros guerreros más feroces. Pero ustedes, Six se estremeció visiblemente. Ustedes lucharon de maneras que desafiaban toda lógica militar que conocíamos. «Continúa», ordenó Jake, fascinado a pesar de la situación. «Cuando atacamos sus colonias exteriores, esperábamos rendición rápida. En cambio, encontramos resistencia suicida. Sus soldados se lanzaban contra nuestras máquinas de guerra con explosivos, sabiendo que morirían. Sus civiles se negaban a evacuar prefiriendo luchar hasta la muerte». Six pausó, claramente traumatizado por los recuerdos. Pero lo peor no era su valentía, era su adaptabilidad. Cada vez que desarrollábamos una nueva táctica, ustedes la contrarrestaban en semanas. Estudiaban nuestros patrones de ataque y los convertían en nuestras debilidades. Jack sintió una extraña mezcla de orgullo y horror. La guerra había costado millones de vidas humanas, pero aparentemente había dejado cicatrices profundas también en el enemigo. «¿Por qué vienes a nosotros ahora?». «Porque la reina está planeando un ataque final, un último intento desesperado de destruir la Tierra antes de que ustedes puedan llegar a nuestro mundo hogar». Hasta Astare 6, las siguientes horas fueron un torbellino de actividad en la estación espacial. Jake había convocado una reunión de emergencia con todos los comandantes disponibles. La sala de conferencias principal estaba llena de oficiales de alto rango, incluyendo a General Patricia Williams, quien había llegado desde el comando terrestre en una nave de emergencia. SIG-174 estaba sentado en una silla especialmente adaptada, rodeado por un campo de fuerza transparente. Sus heridas habían sido tratadas por el equipo médico, pero su estado mental parecía más frágil que su cuerpo dañado. «Cuéntanos todo lo que sepas sobre este ataque final», demandó la General Williams, su voz fría como el acero. Six comenzó a hablar, su voz temblando con cada palabra. La reina ha estado reuniendo los restos de nuestras flotas durante los últimos 2 años. Cada nave que pudo escapar de sus frentes de batalla ha sido llamada de regreso al mundo hogar. ¿Cuántas naves estamos hablando?, interrumpió Commander Steve Harrison desde su posición al fondo de la sala. Aproximadamente 1200 naves de guerra de diferentes clases, más el navío insignia de la reina. El devastador estelar, respondió Six. Pero Jake se inclinó hacia adelante. ¿Qué podría ser peor que una flota de 1200 naves? Han desarrollado un arma nueva. Una que nunca habían considerado necesaria antes de enfrentarse a ustedes. Six pausó, sus ojos compuestos brillando con terror. La llaman el eliminador de planetas. Un silencio sepulcral cayó sobre la sala. La general Williams fue la primera en hablar. Describe esta arma. Es un proyectil que penetra la corteza de un planeta y explota en el núcleo. No deja nada excepto asteroides flotando en el espacio, explicó Six. La reina prefería la conquista a la destrucción, pero ustedes los humanos la han desesperado tanto que está dispuesta a eliminar completamente la Tierra. Lieutenant Colonel Mary Johnson, la estratega principal de la flota, se puso de pie. ¿Cuánto tiempo tenemos? Según mis cálculos, la flota partirá de nuestro mundo hogar en aproximadamente 6 semanas terrestres. El viaje hasta aquí tomará otras 4 semanas, respondió Sixes. 10 semanas para preparar la defensa más importante en la historia humana, murmuró Jake. La general Williams golpeó la mesa con su puño. No es suficiente tiempo. Nuestras fuerzas están dispersas por toda la galaxia después de la guerra. Necesitaríamos meses para reunir una flota defensiva adecuada. Hay otra opción, dijo Six suavemente. Pero requeriría que confiaran completamente en mí. Todos los ojos se volvieron hacia el alienígena prisionero. Jake cruzó los brazos. Habla. Conozco las rutas de navegación que la flota usará. Conozco sus formaciones de batalla y sus protocolos, pero, más importante, conozco la ubicación del devastador estelar dentro de la formación. ¿Y qué propones?, preguntó la general Williams. Un ataque preventivo. Una pequeña fuerza de élite podría interceptar la flota antes de que llegue al sistema solar. Si logran destruir el devastador estelar, la flota se verá forzada a retirarse, explicó Six. Commander Harrison negó con la cabeza. Es una misión suicida, una pequeña fuerza contra 1200 naves. No necesariamente, argumentó Six. He observado sus tácticas humanas durante 3 años de guerra. Su especialidad es convertir batallas imposibles en victorias through shared determination and creative thinking. ¿Por qué nos ayudarías? ¿Por qué traicionarías a tu propia especie? Los ojos de Six se llenaron nuevamente de lágrimas alienígenas. Porque he visto lo que la guerra ha hecho a ambas especies. He visto a mis hermanos convertirse en monstruos por la desesperación. Y he visto a ustedes luchar con una ferocidad que respeto, pero que también temo. El frente de guerra humano no era solo un infierno para nosotros, continuó. Era un espejo que nos mostraba lo que nos habíamos convertido. Invasores sin propósito. Conquistadores sin honor. Ustedes lucharon por sus hogares, sus familias, su supervivencia. Nosotros luchábamos por el capricho de una reina enloquecida por el poder. La general Williams se levantó lentamente. Necesito comunicarme con el comando terrestre. Esta decisión está por encima de mi autoridad. No tenemos tiempo para la burocracia, protestó Jake. Cada hora que perdemos es una hora menos para prepararnos. ¿Qué tipo de fuerza necesitaríamos para esta misión?, preguntó Mary Johnson, ya calculando posibilidades en su mente. Six cerró sus ojos compuestos. 50 naves de guerra humanas, sus mejores pilotos, y un comandante que entienda que ganar esta batalla requerirá sacrificios que ninguna especie civilizada debería estar dispuesta a hacer. Hasta 2 days later, Captain Ben Crawford found himself standing in the briefing room of the Earth Force flagship Vengeance, staring at holographic displays that showed star charts unlike any he had ever seen. The room was filled with 50 of humanity's best ship commanders, each handpicked for what military intelligence was calling Admiral Karen Swift. Entered the room with heavy footsteps. Her usually confident demeanor seemed strained under the weight of the decision that had been made at the highest levels of Earth Command. Behind her walked 6774, the alien defector, who had become humanity's most valuable and most controversial asset. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Swift began. What you are about to hear is classified at the highest level. The mission we are proposing will either save humanity or doom it entirely. Ben exchanged glances with Captain Lisa Morgan, commander of the destroyer Defiant. They had served together during the worst battles of the war and had developed an almost telepathic understanding of each other's thoughts. Right now, her expression mirrored his own concern. Six stepped forward to the central holographic display. His movements were still pain from his injuries, but his voice carried newfound determination. The Queen's fleet will travel through this nebula cluster, he said, pointing to a swirling mass of purple and gold gases. It provides cover from long-range sensors, but also limits their maneuverability. That's where we hit them? Asked Commander Ryan Phillips from the back of the room. Not exactly, Six replied. The fleet travels in a defensive formation with the Devastador Estelar at the center, surrounded by concentric rings of escort vessels. A direct assault would be suicide. Admiral Swift activated another hologram. Our intelligence analysis combined with Six's knowledge has identified a weakness. The planet killer requires a specific power configuration that makes it vulnerable for approximately 12 minutes during its charging cycle. 12 minutes, Ben muttered. Against 200 ships. The plan is complex but achievable, continued Six. We create a diversion at the outer perimeter of their formation. While their forces respond to the threat, a small strike team penetrates the center and targets the Devastador during its vulnerable phase. Captain Morgan leaned forward. What kind of diversion are we talking about? Six's alien features seem to show something resembling regret. The kind that requires 30 ships to sacrifice themselves so that 20 can complete the mission. The room erupted in angry voices. Several commanders shouted protest, arguing that the plan was madness. Ben stood up, his voice cutting through the noise. How do we know you're not leading us into a trap? The alien turned to face him directly. Because I have already lost everything fighting you humans. My fleet, my honor, my faith in my queen. The only thing I have left is the chance to prevent the extinction of 2 civilizations. Admiral Swift raised her hand for silence. Earth Command has approved this mission. It's volunteered only. Anyone who wants out can leave now with no questions asked. Ben looked around the room. Despite the protests, not a single commander moved toward the door. These were veterans of the human-alien war, people who had already proven they would die before backing down from impossible odds. All right, said Commander Phillips. Let's say we buy into this insane plan. How exactly do we pull it off? Six activated a detailed tactical display. Phase 1, we approach the nebula from 3 different vectors. The Queen's forces will detect us but will assume we are refugees fleeing the outer colonies. Phase 2, the diversion force led by the heavy cruisers attacks the outer ring of escort ships. This will draw their attention and force them to break formation to respond to multiple threats. Phase 3, during the confusion, the strike team uses the nebula's interference to mask their approach. They penetrate the center of the formation and locate the Devastador Estelar. Phase 4 is the critical one, Admiral Swift interjected. The planet killer will be charging his weapon for a test firing. During those 12 minutes, its defensive systems are minimized to divert power to the main weapon. Captain Morgan frowned. A test firing? On what target? Six's voice became barely a whisper. One of your outer colonies. Kepler, complete 2B, population 2 million humans. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were not just trying to prevent a future attack on Earth. They were racing to save 2 million people who had no idea they were about to become a demonstration of alien firepower. When do we leave? Ben asked, his voice steady despite the magnitude cuanto when they were facing. 4 hours, Admiral Swift replaced. Our ships have been refueled and reared mid with our latest weapons technology. Each vessel has also been equipped with experimental shielding that should provide some protection against alien energy weapons. What about communications? Asked Commander Sarah Baker from the reconnaissance ship Mercury. Radio silence once we enter the nebula, Zix explained. The Queen's forces monitor all frequencies. Coordination will depend on predetermining timing and visual signals. As the briefing continued with technical details and contingency plans, Ben found his thoughts drifting to the bigger picture. Humanity had been fighting this war for 3 years, and in that time they had learned to adapt their tactics to alien technology and psychology. But this mission was different. This time, they were not defending their territory or counterattacking enemy positions. They were deliberately flying into the heart of an enemy fleet, with the goal of preventing a weapon they had never seen from destroying a planet they might not be able to save. One final thing, Admiral Swift said as the briefing concluded. Command want everyone to understand that if this mission fails, Earth defenses will not be sufficient to stop the planet killer when it arrives. This is not just about saving Kepler, Core 42V. This is about saving our entire civilization. As the commanders filed out to prepare their ships, Ben lingered behind with Captain Morgan and Six. "Tell me honestly," he said to the alien. "What are our real chances?" Six studied him with those compound eyes that had witnessed the hell of the human war front. "By any logical military analysis, your chances are less than 5%. But I have learned never to underestimate human determination when you are fighting for survival." "That's not exactly reassuring," Lisa said dryly. "No," Six replied. "But it is honest. And honesty is the only thing I have left to offer your species." Sexcitas the journey to the nebula took 6 days of hard travel through jump space, with 50 human warships maintaining strict formation and communication protocols. Ben Crawford found the silence eerie after years of constant chatter between ships during combat operations. Every few hours, the fleet would drop back to normal space to check their position and confirm that Six's navigational data was accurate. On the morning of the 7th day, Captain Morgan's voice crackled over the secure short-range comm system. "Ben, you need to see this." Ben made his way to the observation deck of his ship, the destroyer Nightfall. Through the reinforced transparent aluminum windows, he could see the edge of the Veil Nebula stretching across space like a vast curtain of purple and gold gases. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, knowing that somewhere within its swirling depths the largest alien fleet ever assembled was heading toward human space. "Fleet-wide signal," Admiral Swift's voice announced. "All ships prepare for nebula entry. From this point forward, we operate under full combat protocols." Ben returned to his bridge, where his crew was already at battle stations. Lieutenant Commander Pete Wilson, his first officer, was reviewing the tactical displays one final time. Chief Engineer Nancy Torres had reported all systems optimal, though she had concerns about maintaining engine efficiency in the nebula's electromagnetic interference. "Sensors are showing massive energy signatures, approximately 4 light hours ahead," reported Ensign Danny Foster from the sensor station. "Multiple contacts, moving information." "That's them," Ben confirmed. "Signal the fleet. Execute Phase 1. The human ships split into 3 groups as planned. Admiral Swift led the main diversion force toward the nebula's northern edge, while Captain Morgan took a smaller group south. Ben's strike team headed straight for the center, using the nebula's natural interference to mask their approach. As they penetrated deeper into the nebula, the interference became stronger. Their normal sensor range dropped to less than 50,000 kilometers, turning Level 200 dangers game of blind navigation and split-second reactions. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, called out Ensign Foster. Range 40 mil clicks and closing fast." On the main screen, a sleek alien patrol ship emerged from the swirling gases. Its hull was the familiar dark purple of Queen's forces, with energy weapon ports glowing blue along its sides. "Do we engage?" asked Pete Wilson. "Negative, single patrol ship isn't worth breaking stealth," Ben replied, though every instinct screamed at him to open fire. Years of war had conditioned him to shoot first and ask questions later when it came to alien contacts. The patrol ship passed within 20,000 kilometers without detecting them. Ben released a breath hadn't realized he was holding. "Admiral Swift's group is engaging the outer perimeter." reported the communications officer. Heavy fighting reported on all frequencies. Through the nebula's interference, Ben could see distant flashes of weapon fire like lightning in a storm. The diversion was working. Alien ships were breaking formation to respond to what they perceived as a major assault on their outer defenses. Strike team, this is actual. Ben broadcast on the tactical frequency. We have a window. All ships, maximum acceleration toward the target zone. The 5 ships of the strike team pushed their engines to the red line, racing through the nebula's chaotic environment toward the center of the alien formation. As they got closer, the scope of the enemy fleet became apparent. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect coordination, their formations stretching for thousands of kilometers in all directions. Target acquired, announced Chief Torres from her engineering station. Dead ahead, range 100 mil kilometers. The devastador estelar vives, the alien planet killer, was massive, easily 10 times the size of Earth's largest battleships. Its hull was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as energy flowed through them. At the ship's forward section, a weapon of impossible size was beginning to glow with deadly purpose. They're charging the weapon, reported Pete Wilson. Energy signatures match 6 projections. We have approximately 12 minutes, all ships attack pattern Delta. Ben ordered, focus fire on the weapon's power coupling systems. The 5 human ships opened fire simultaneously. Laser cannons and plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward their target. The alien ship's shields absorbed most of the damage, but several hits penetrated to the hull. We're getting their attention, warned Ensign Foster. Multiple enemy ships breaking off to intercept. Ben watched as a dozen alien escort vessels turned toward their position. Each one was larger than his destroyer, and together they represented firepower that could obliterate his entire strike team in minutes. Continue the attack, he ordered. We don't leave until that weapon is destroyed. The next few minutes became a desperate running battle through the nebula's interference. Human ships dodged between gas clouds and energy storms, while alien pursuers fired continuous volleys of plasma weapons. The destroyer Richmond took a direct hit and exploded in a brilliant fireball. The cruiser Portland reported critical damage, but continued fighting. Target's weapon system is at 80% charge, Pete Wilson reported. Still no significant damage to the power couplings. Ben made a decision that went against every tactical manual ever written. All remaining ships, ramming speed. We take out that weapon system with our ships if necessary. Sir, that's suicide, protested Chief Torres. So is letting that thing fire on Kepler 442b. Ben replied, execute the order. The 3 surviving ships of the strike team aligned themselves for a direct assault on the planet killer's weapon system. As they accelerate toward their target, alien defensive fire intensified. The cruiser Portland's shields failed and the ship began venting atmosphere. But Captain Rodriguez kept his vessel on course. 10 seconds to impact, announced Pete Wilson. At that moment, space around the devastador estelar erupted in explosions. The weapon system, overcharged and vulnerable, finally succumbing to concentrated human firepower. The massive alien ship's forward section was consuming a chain reaction that sent shockwaves through the nebula. Target destroyed, confirmed Ensign Foster. The planet killer is down. As the alien fleet began to retreat deeper into the nebula, Ben realized they had accomplished the impossible. A handful of human ships had destroyed a weapon that could have ended their civilization, but the cost had been enormous. Of the 50 ships that had entered the nebula, only 23 remained operational. All ships form up for the journey home, Admiral Swift's voice crackled over the comm. Mission accomplished. Ben looked at the debris field where the planet killer had been and felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Alien Queen would not forgive this defeat and humanity would need to prepare for whatever came next. Hasta 3 semanas después del éxito de la operación Último Recurso, el comandante Jake Martínez se encontraba en una situación que nunca había imaginado. Estaba sentado frente a SIG-774 en una sala de interrogatorios convertida en sala de reuniones. discutiendo los términos de lo que podría convertirse en el primer tratado de paz entre humanos y la especie de la reina alienígena. La destrucción del devastador estelar ha cambiado todo, explicaba Six, sus ojos compuestos brillando con una emoción que Jake había aprendido a interpretar como esperanza. La reina ha perdido no solo su arma más poderosa, sino también la confianza de muchos comandantes de flota. Jake estudió los reportes de inteligencia que habían llegado durante los últimos días. Las fuerzas alienígenas se habían retirado a su espacio territorial, y las comunicaciones interceptadas sugerían divisiones internas en su jerarquía militar. ¿Qué tipo de divisiones?, preguntó Jake. Comandantes que cuestionan la sabiduría de continuar una guerra que ya ha costado tanto, respondió Six. Algunos han comenzado a sugerir que los humanos han demostrado ser dignos de respeto, no de conquista. La puerta se abrió y entró la general Patricia Williams, acompañada por Dr. Robert Kim, el nuevo especialista en xenobiología de la flota terrestre. Era la primera vez que Jake veía al doctor, un hombre joven pero con una reputación impresionante en el estudio de especies alienígenas. Sykes saludó a la general Williams. Hemos estado analizando las propuestas de paz que transmitiste a través de los canales diplomáticos. Tengo algunas preguntas. El alienígena se enderezó en su silla especial. Estaré encantado de responder, general.
Doctor
Kim activó un dispositivo de grabación y se sentó frente a Six. Primero, necesitamos entender la estructura política de tu especie. ¿Quién tiene la autoridad real para negociar un tratado de paz? La reina tiene autoridad absoluta en teoría, explicó Six, pero en la práctica necesita el apoyo del Consejo de Comandantes Supremos. Sin ese apoyo, cualquier tratado sería ignorado por las fuerzas militares.
¿Y actualmente tiene ese apoyo?, preguntó la general Williams.
Six pausó, claramente considerando sus palabras cuidadosamente. Antes de la guerra con los humanos. Sí, ahora las cosas son más complicadas. La reina ha perdido 3/4 partes de la flota original. Muchos mundos coloniales han declarado autonomía. El imperio que existía hace 5 años ya no existe. Eric se inclinó hacia adelante. ¿Estás diciendo que derrotar el frente de guerra humano básicamente quebró su civilización?
No quebró, pero sí transformó, corrigió Six.
Mi especie nunca había enfrentado resistencia seria antes. Éramos conquistadores por naturaleza, expandiéndonos a través de la galaxia sin oposición real. Los humanos cambiaron eso fundamentalmente. Dr. Kim tomó notas frenéticamente. ¿Cómo exactamente? Ustedes no solo resistieron, sino que adaptaron nuestras propias tácticas y las mejoraron, explicó Six con algo que sonaba como admiración. Cada vez que desarrollábamos una nueva estrategia, ustedes encontraban una contramedida en semanas, no en años, como esperábamos. Pero más importante, continuó, ustedes lucharon con una ferocidad que desafiaba nuestro entendimiento de la psicología militar. Soldados humanos que se sacrificaban voluntariamente para destruir nuestras máquinas de guerra. Civiles que se negaban a evacuar, prefiriendo luchar hasta la muerte defendiendo sus hogares. La general Williams asintió grimmente. La guerra nos costó 40 millones de vidas civiles y 15 millones de militares, y a nosotros nos costó 200 millones de soldados y la pérdida de 70% de nuestra flota, respondió Six. Pero las pérdidas numéricas no son la historia completa. Ustedes nos enseñaron algo que nunca habíamos experimentado. El miedo. ¿Miedo?, preguntó Jake. Miedo a que otra especie pudiera ser superior a nosotros en algo. Durante milenios, fuimos los depredadores supremos de esta galaxia. Ahora sabemos que existe una especie que puede superarnos en determinación, creatividad táctica y voluntad de sacrificio. Dr. Kim se detuvo en sus notas. Eso significa que tu especie nos ve como una amenaza existencial.
Algunos sí, admitió Six. Esos son los que apoyan continuar la guerra hasta el exterminio mutuo.
Pero otros, especialmente los que lucharon directamente contra fuerzas humanas, han llegado a una conclusión diferente.
¿Cuál?,
preguntó la general Williams. Que una alianza con los humanos sería más beneficiosa que una guerra de extinción. Ustedes han demostrado capacidades que complementarían nuestras propias fortalezas. Jake sintió una mezcla de esperanza y escepticismo. ¿Qué tipo de alianza? Six activó un dispositivo de proyección holográfica que había traído consigo. El aire se llenó con mapas estelares, mostrando el territorio conocido de ambas especies. Existen otras amenazas en esta galaxia, explicó. Especies que ninguna de nuestras civilizaciones ha enfrentado aún. Los exploradores más lejanos han detectado señales de tecnologías que superan tanto la humana como la nuestra. La proyección mostró regiones del espacio marcadas con símbolos de advertencia. En particular, hay una especie que llamamos los devoradores. Consumen planetas enteros, convirtiendo la materia en energía para alimentar flotas que se cuentan en millones de naves. ¿Has tenido contacto directo con ellos?, preguntó Doc Kim. No directo, pero hemos encontrado los restos de civilizaciones que sí lo tuvieron, respondió Six sombríamente. Sistemas estelares enteros reducidos a polvo cósmico, mundos con poblaciones de billones. Simplemente, la sala quedó en silencio mientras todos procesaban esta información. Jake finalmente habló. ¿Cuándo esperan que esta amenaza llegue a nuestro sector de la galaxia? Nuestros mejores cálculos sugieren entre 50 y 100 años terrestres, respondió Six. Tiempo suficiente para que nuestras especies desarrollen defensas conjuntas. Si trabajamos juntas. La general Williams se levantó y caminó hacia la ventana que daba al espacio. ¿Y qué garantías tendríamos de que esto no es una elaborada trampa para debilitar nuestras defensas? No puedo ofrecer garantías, general, pero puedo ofrecerles algo más valioso: conocimiento completo de nuestra tecnología, incluyendo nuestros sistemas de armamento y propulsión. Eso sería un acto de traición según las leyes de tu especie, observó Dr. Kim. Sí, confirmó Six, pero he llegado a creer que la supervivencia de ambas especies es más importante que mi lealtad a un sistema que ha demostrado ser fundamentalmente defectuoso. Jake sintió que estaban en un punto de inflexión histórico. ¿Cuál sería el primer paso hacia estas negociaciones de paz? Un cese al fuego formal, seguido por un intercambio de prisioneros, respondió Six. Tengo información sobre la ubicación de aproximadamente 2000 humanos capturados durante la guerra, que aún están vivos en campos de prisioneros alienígenas. La general Williams se volvió bruscamente. 2000. Nuestros reportes indicaban que todos los prisioneros habían sido ejecutados. Esa fue la política oficial, explicó Six. Pero varios comandantes de campo mantuvieron prisioneros vivos para estudios de comportamiento humano. Irónicamente, esos estudios fueron lo que finalmente convenció a muchos de nosotros de que la guerra era imposible de ganar. Hasta ese 6 semanas después de las negociaciones iniciales de paz, la estación espacial Gateway se había transformado en el centro neurálgico de la operación más compleja en la historia de la diplomacia humana. Comandante Jake Martínez observaba desde la sala de control principal mientras naves de ambas especies se acercaban cuidadosamente para el primer intercambio oficial de prisioneros en 3 años de guerra brutal. Contacto confirmado a 100.000 kilómetros desde su puesto en comunicaciones. La nave alienígena Harmony está transmitiendo códigos de identificación según lo acordado. Jake sintió la tensión en el aire. Más de 500 oficiales de ambas especies estaban involucrados en esta operación, cada uno sabiendo que un solo error podría reiniciar la guerra y condenar a ambas civilizaciones. A su lado, SIG-774 monitoreaba las comunicaciones alienígenas con equipment especialmente modificado para su fisiología. Las transmisiones indican que transportan a 400 humanos, reportó Six. Están listos para el intercambio según el protocolo establecido. En el hangar principal, Dr. Sarah Mitchell y su equipo médico habían establecido una instalación de emergencia para tratar a los prisioneros humanos liberados. Los reportes de Six sobre las condiciones en los campos alienígenas habían sido perturbadores, aunque no deliberadamente crueles. La diferencia en biología hacía que las condiciones de detención alienígenas fueran naturalmente dañinas para los humanos. Nave humana Charleston reporta lista para transferir prisioneros alienígenas, anunció Captain Rebecca Torres desde la nave de escolta. Jake activó el canal de comunicación general. Atención todas las naves. Inicien protocolo de intercambio Delta. Mantengan distancia segura y monitoreen todas las frecuencias para señales de emergencia. Lo que siguió fue una coreografía espacial de precisión militar. Las naves se acercaron lentamente, manteniéndose dentro de los parámetros acordados. Specialized shuttlecraft moved between them, carrying precious human cargo back to freedom. El primer shuttle que regresó transportaba a Captain Deanna Walsh, quien había sido capturada durante la batalla de Proxima Centauri hacía 18 meses. Cuando salió del shuttle en el hangar de Gateway, Jake apenas la reconoció. Había perdido considerable peso y tenía cicatrices visibles en sus brazos, pero sus ojos still burned with the same determination he remembered. Captain Walsh saludó Jake formalmente. Bienvenida de regreso. Deanna lo saludó militarmente, aunque Jake notó un ligero temblor en su mano. Señor, tengo información crítica sobre las operaciones alienígenas que, por supuesto. Mitchell, por favor examina a la Captain Walsh y luego procederemos con el debriefing. Durante las siguientes horas más shuttles regresaron con prisioneros humanos liberados. Cada historia era diferente, pero todas compartían elementos comunes. Los alienígenas habían tratado de estudiar el comportamiento humano bajo estrés, trying to understand what made humans fight with such desperate ferocity. El mayor Tom Bradley, piloto de fighter capturado durante la batalla de Warp 359, proporcionó insights particularmente valiosos durante su debriefing. Los guardias alienígenas constantly discussed our psychological profiles, explicó Bradley. They couldn't understand why humans would continue fighting in situations where victory was mathematically impossible.
¿Qué tipo de estudios realizaron?, preguntó Jake.
Simulaciones de combate mostly. Nos ponían en escenarios where we had to choose between personal survival and protecting other prisoners. Every time humans chose to protect each other, even at the cost of their own lives. Jake intercambió miradas con Six, quien había estado escuchando silenciosamente. ¿Eso sorprendió a tus compañeros? Six asintió lentamente. En nuestra cultura, individual survival often takes precedence over group loyalty. The concept of voluntary self-sacrifice for strangers was incomprensible. Pero eso cambió durante la guerra, añadió Bradley. Hacia el final de mi cautiverio, los guardias comenzaron a treat us differently, more respectfully. Like they finally understood that we weren't just stubborn, we were fighting for something they had never experienced. La conversación fue interrumpida por una alarma de comunicaciones urgentes. Lieutenant Foster's voice echoed through the station speakers. Commander Martinez, priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Peterson requests immediate conference. Jake se dirigió rápidamente a la sala de comunicaciones seguras, donde la imagen holográfica del Admiral Peterson appeared with obvious concern on his weathered features. Jake, we've received disturbing intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations, began the Admiral without preamble. Long-range sensors have detected massive fleet movements in the Outer Rim territories. ¿Alien Queen forces?, preguntó Jake. Negative. These energy signatures don't match any known technology, human or alien. Respondió Peterson grimly. The ships appear to be significantly larger than anything in our databases, and they're moving in perfect formation toward inhabited systems. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The Devourers? That's our working hypothesis. If Six's formation is accurate, we may be facing the threat he warned us about sooner than anticipated. La pantalla cambió para mostrar long-range sensor data. Dozens of massive contacts were visible, each easily the size of a small moon, moving with purpose through space toward the border regions between human and alien territory. ¿Cuál es su velocity y projected course?, preguntó Jake. Current speed suggests they'll reach the outer colonies in approximately 6 months, respondió Peterson. But here's the concerning part. Their course will take them through both human and alien space. If they're truly planet devourers as described, both our civilizations are in immediate danger. Jake immediately understood the implications. Señor, respectfully suggest we accelerate peace negotiations with the Alien Queen. Si esta amenaza es real, vamos a net their military technology and experience. Agreed. I'm authorizing you to offer full military alliance terms to the alien representatives. We need every available resource if we are going to face this threat. Después de que terminó la comunicación, Jake regresó to find Six waiting anxiously in the corridor. The alien's compound eyes seemed more agitated than usual. You received news about the approaching fleets, stated Six. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Because I've been monitoring our own long-range communications, admitted Six. My people have detected the same energy signatures. The Queen has called an emergency session of the High Command. Jake leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling the weight of responsibility for two civilizations. ¿Cuánto tiempo we realistically have to prepare joint defenses? According to our most optimistic calculations, perhaps 4 months, responded Six. But Commander Martinez, there's something else you need to understand about the Devourers. ¿Qué? They don't just consume planets for resources, they consume them for knowledge. Every civilization they encounter, they absorb their technology, their tactics, their cultural knowledge. By the time they reach us, they will have absorbed the defensive strategies of dozens of other species. Jake closed his eyes, trying to process the magnitude of what they were facing. So we're not just fighting an unknown enemy, we're fighting an enemy that becomes stronger with every victory, which is why the alliance between humans and my people is not just beneficial, it's absolutely essential for survival. En ese momento, Jake realized that the prisoner exchange happening around them was just the beginning. In a matter of months, former enemies would need to become trusted allies in a fight against something that threatened to erase both their civilizations from existence. La humanidad había survived 3 years of war against the Alien Queen through determination, adaptability, and sheer stubborn refusal to surrender. Now they would need those same qualities plus the advanced technology and military experience of their former enemies to face a threat that could end all intelligent life in this sector of the galaxy. El frente de guerra humano había indeed been hell, como Six había confesado, but now Jake realized that hell might have been just preparation for the true test that was coming. Part 7. The Joint Command Center established on Gateway Station bustled with activity that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. Human and alien officers worked side by side, their voices mixing in a symphony of two species desperately trying to save their civilizations. Commander Jake Martinez stood at the central tactical display, watching as fleet dispositions updated in real time across a three-dimensional map of local space. Admiral Peterson had arrived from Earth 3 weeks ago, bringing with him the most advanced ships in the human fleet. Across from him stood High Commander Thys Prime, the Alien Queen's most trusted military advisor, whose scarred carapace told the story of countless battles across multiple star systems. Long-range sensors confirmed, announced Captain Lisa Morgan from the sensor station. The viewer flight has consumed the Kepler system entirely. 4 planets, 3 moons, and approximately 50 million inhabitants, all converted to raw energy and absorbed into their vessels. Jake felt sick to his stomach. The Kepler system had been home to one of humanity's most prosperous colonies. Now it was nothing but empty space and debris. This Brian clicked his mandibles in what Jake had learned was their species' expression of deep distress. The consumption rate is accelerating. War projections indicate they will reach the border zone in 6 weeks, not the 8 we had calculated. 774, who had become the crucial liaison between both species, activated a holographic display showing the latest intelligence data. The enemy fleet now consists of 47 capital ships, each approximately 8 kilometers in length. Based on energy signatures, we estimate each vessel contains the absorbed technology and knowledge of at least 12 different civilizations. Robert Kim, the xenobiologist who had become indispensable to the Alliance effort, leaned forward intently. Have we identified any pattern to their consumption methodology? They target the most technologically advanced planets first, then systematically work through each system until nothing remains. They appear to prioritize knowledge acquisition over simple resource collection. Admiral Peterson studied the tactical projections with the grim expression of a man who had fought in 3 interstellar wars. What are our combined fleet capabilities against this threat? High Commander Thys Prime gestured to another display showing Allied force dispositions. Human forces number 6 and 30 operational warships of various classes. Our remaining fleet consists of 412 vessels. Additionally, we have begun production of hybrid vessels incorporating both technologies. The hybrid ships are particularly promising. added Chief Engineer Nancy Torres, who had been working around the clock with alien technical specialists. Human adaptive engineering combined with alien energy weapon systems has produced ships with capabilities exceeding either technology individually. Jake activated the main strategic display showing defensive perimeter they had established along the likely approach routes. The first line is designed to slow their advance and gather tactical intelligence. The second line represents our primary defensive position. The third line paused, knowing the implications of what he was about to say. The third line is our final stand. If they break through, both Earth and the alien homeworld will be within striking range. Captain Morgan looked up from her sensor readings. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the forward scouts. Put it through, ordered Jake. The holographic display shifted to show Captain Ben Crawford, whose ship Nightfall was part of the Advanced Reconnaissance Force. His face was drawn with exhaustion and something approaching terror. Command, we've made visual contact with the Deepwater Fleet, Crawford reported. Sirs, nothing we've discussed has prepared us for what we're seeing. Elabórate, demanded Admiral Peterson. The ships there not just large, they appear to be partially organic. We're detecting biosignatures mixed with technological components. It's like they've merged with the life forms they've consumed. Ty's prime compound eyes widened in what Jake recognized as extreme agitation. Did you say organic components? Confirmed. The hull plating appears to be some form of living tissue reinforced with metallic structures. And sir, they're not just moving information. They're moving like a single organismo with multiple bodies. Dr. Kim frantically began accessing his biological databases. That would explain their perfect coordination. If they've developed a collective consciousness from absorbed species, they would function as a unified entity rather than individual ships. Commander Crawford, are you detecting any communication attempts from the enemy vessels? Negative. But there's something else. We're picking up electromagnetic patterns that suggest they're scanning our ships in detail. Not just general scans. They're analyzing our hull composition, weapon configurations, even our engine signatures. They're learning our technology in real time. Affirmative. Confirmed. Crawford. And sir, based on energy buildup patterns, I believe they're preparing to test weapon systems against us. All reconnaissance ships fall back immediately, ordered Admiral Peterson. Do not engage under any circumstances. The communication ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Everyone understood that they were facing something unprecedented in the history of either species. We need to accelerate our defensive preparations, announced Jake. If they can analyze and adapt to our technology just by scanning it, we need to constantly evolve our tactics and weapon systems. This Prime activated his own communication device, speaking rapidly in his species' native language. After a few moments, it turned back to the human commanders. I have authorized the release of our most classified military technologies to human engineers. Time for secrecy has ended. Kim began pulling up biological analysis data. If these entities are partially organic, they might have biological vulnerabilities we can exploit. We should consider developing biological weapons specifically designed to target their living components. Agreed, sighed Admiral Peterson. How quickly can we retrofit our fleets with new weapon systems? Chief Engineer Torres consulted her technical displays. With full production facilities working continuously, we could have basic biological weapon capabilities deployed fleet-wide in 3 weeks. Advanced hybrid weapon systems will take longer. Jake studied the strategic map, noting how the enemy's projected path would intersect with their defensive lines. We also need to consider that conventional military tactics may not be effective against a collective consciousness. They won't make mistakes based on individual decision-making or ego conflicts. But they might be vulnerable to information warfare, suggested Captain Morgan. If they absorb knowledge from everything they consume, we might be able to feed them false or corrupted data. Six's mandibles clicked with what Jake had learned, indicated intense thought. There is precedent for this. Ancient records speak of a species called the Mind Weavers, who defeated a similar collective entity by overwhelming it with contradictory information. How? Asked Dr. Kim. They created false memory implants and allowed themselves to be partially absorbed. The conflicting information caused the collective to fragment into competing consciousness clusters, destroying their coordination. Admirado Peterson leaned back in his chair. That sounds like a suicide mission.
It was, confirmed Thix.
The Mind Weavers became extinct in the process, but they saved 12 other species from absorption. The weight of this revelation settled over the command center. Jake realized they were not just planning a military defense, but potentially discussing the sacrifice of their entire civilization to save others they would never meet. Let's focus on solutions that don't require extinction, he said finally. We have 6 weeks to develop weapons, tactics, and strategies that can stop this threat. We've already proven that humans and your species can accomplish the impossible when working together. The human war front taught us both that adaptation and determination can overcome superior technology, added this prime. Perhaps those same qualities will serve us against this new enemy. As the meeting concluded and officers dispersed to their various preparations, Jake remained at the tactical display with Six. The alien had become more than a defector or liaison. He had become a trusted advisor whose insights had proven invaluable. Do you really believe we have a chance? Jake asked quietly. Six studied the display showing the approaching Devourer fleet. 6 months ago, I believed humans were primitives who would surrender after losing a few battles. I was wrong about your species' capabilities then. Perhaps I am wrong about our capabilities now. That's not exactly a confident assessment. No, agreed Six. But confidence built on false assumptions is worthless. What I can tell you is this. The combination of human adaptability and our technological resources represents something new in this galaxy. The Devourers have faced many species, but they have never faced an alliance like ours. Jake nodded, finding some comfort in Six words. The warfront had indeed been hell, but it had also forged 2 species into something stronger than either could be alone. Now that strength would face its ultimate test against an enemy that threatened the existence of all intelligent life in the region of space. The next 6 weeks would determine whether the alliance born from the hell of war could survive the greater hell that was approaching from the stars.